Hello everyone, welcome to Game Breakdowns, and today we're going to be breaking down and reviewing Scarlet Nexus. Let's start with some background. Scarlet Nexus is an action role-playing game that takes place in an alternate futuristic reality where most humans have developed some sort of power that stems from their brains. They have also developed technology far more advanced than our own and use it in many different ways. Throughout the game, your characters, who you will be controlling, both Yuito and Kasane, will be making use of this technology to help them combat the threat of others. These creatures take on the appearance of having been fused with both animals and plants and statues. If it sounds weird, trust me, it is. However, that is not necessarily a bad thing. Others are the primary threat in this game, and their origin can be traced back to animals who came in contact with certain types of particles created on the moon and transformed as a result of this. Both characters who you will control have joined the OSF, who are tasked with combating others and stopping them from devouring people's brains. The story becomes much more deep and complex than this, but that is the basic premise the game starts out with. One area where Scarlet Nexus tends to shine is the character design. So we're talking about characters. Each one has their own distinct features that make them stand out as truly unique individuals. The personalities of these characters are carefully crafted, but can also be summed up to certain anime tropes. But considering the game is meant to be inspired by anime, this should be expected. However, each character goes through a character development arc that is truly unique to them and makes each one interesting and able to be sympathized with. Even the main villain is understandable and relatable to an extent. Throughout the game, you will have the opportunity to bond with each and every character that you team up with. This in turn will not only give you insight into each character's way of thinking, but will also help you out in combat, as new abilities for that character you team up with will become unlocked. So the more you bond with your character, basically, the more you will actually have their abilities help you out when you do team up and combo moves in combat. Let's talk about combat. Combat in Scarlet Nexus is extremely satisfying. The two characters you play as have their own unique way of fighting, but are not so different that the experience of shifting from one character to the other will be too jarring. Yuito uses a sword that he switches between wielding in hand and using psychokinesis to slice up foes with his mind. He tends to be more of a close-range fighter who prefers the ground. Kasane uses knives that she levitates with her psychokinetic powers and uses them to unleash combos on enemies. She tends to be a mid-range fighter but can also get in close if necessary, and she is very comfortable fighting above ground. Both Yuito and Kasane have access to SAS, a piece of equipment that allows the player to mind link with your teammates that you will be fighting alongside with and borrow some of their powers and abilities. Each one of your teammates has their own unique power that you can use in various situations. Hanabi utilizes fire, known as pyrokinesis. Shiden uses electricity, known as electrokinesis. Tagumi uses clairvoyance, allowing her to spot invisible enemies. Arashi has hypervelocity that allows her to move so fast that time practically slows down. Kyoka clones herself and multiple objects in the game, and her ability is known as duplicate. Gena can make himself immune to basically any attack, which is known as telekinesis. Luca uses teleportation, simply known as teleportation. I know it is not very original. Kagero utilizes invisibility, known naturally as invisibility. The naming conventions in this game are very interesting. It's kind of like they were feeling really creative with names and then just gave up toward the end. But that's only a minor problem and doesn't take away from how much fun I had with this game. Power-ups are also present for both characters. Brain Drive grants both Yuito and Kasane enhanced speed and strength, allowing them to more quickly utilize their psychokinetic abilities. Brain Field allows both Yuito and Kasane to pull their enemies into practically another dimension and grants them unlimited objects to throw at their opponents. It also fully restores your health, so if you are in a bind, the Brain Field can be your best friend. Throughout the game, you will be upgrading both your characters through a brain tree. Some of the abilities range from extending combos to increasing your psychokinetic gauge, which will allow you to throw objects at enemies more frequently. You will also have access to the shop, which can be found by every save point. Here you can buy healing items, weapons, visual costumes, and more. The game has a basic leveling up system like most action role-playing games. where you will gain EXP points from the enemies you kill, which you can in turn use to purchase combat upgrades through the brain map. As you level up, you will automatically gain increased health. You'll also be able to buy plugins which grant certain perks to your character, like Force Field, which increases the amount of defense your character has, or plugins regarding your power, which increase the amount of damage you can do. From the acrobatic, stylish hack and slash combos to the cinematic finishers that are able to be pulled off, Scarlet Nexus's combat is a joy to play. Of course, the combat is not perfect. There were times where I would be locked onto a target and would be pressing the attack button and would miss the enemy despite them not moving around too much. And the lock-on system can be a bit bad considering you are taking on multiple enemies at a time. It might have been better to allow you to not lock on and attack all enemies at once and utilizing some crowd control attacks in the game, but these are only minor tweaks I would make. Environment. Scarlet Nexus does a fantastic job of creating interactive environments where almost anything can be thrown at an enemy, or used to set the enemy up for a more damaging attack later. For example, you can take a tanker truck and make it explode, causing another to burn, or you can take a few tanks of gasoline, douse it onto another, and then initiate SAS with Hanabi and use pyrokinesis to cause a lot of fire damage to enemies. The same can be done with Shiden with water and his electrokinesis. However, where Scarlet Nexus somewhat falls flat is the look of the environments themselves. They're not bad looking per se, but they don't stand out as much or steal the show like the unique character designs do. The game is also somewhat more linear, which might not be such a bad thing if open world exploration is not too big of a deal and story driven games are more up your alley. Truth of the matter is, Scarlet Nexus is not completely linear either. You can explore the city and do side missions, but there is not really much point to doing so. You will not really get much out of doing them. You'll pretty much see every area if you go through the story, and the side missions are not memorable at all, but some of the Bond missions can be pretty fun admittedly. Even so, as far as exploration, the game is more sandboxy than open world. Now, let's talk about the story. The story in Scarlet Nexus is pretty good. There are twists and turns that you might not expect, though some of the character actions in certain situations don't always make sense, but other than that, the story is fairly decent and one that had me very engaged. All the characters in Scarlet Nexus have a character evolution. If you give Scarlet Nexus a whirl, you will see that both Yuito and Kasane are somewhat different people at the end of their journey, and so are the characters that they teamed up with as well. Conclusion. Scarlet Nexus presents itself as an epic anime adventure, boasting fast-paced combat, cinematic finishers, and complex yet understandable plot points with interesting characters that grow before your eyes and that are easily able to be emotionally invested in. The game has interactive environments for combat purposes and characters with various powers and abilities. If you like games like Devil May Cry, Force Unleashed, Kingdom Hearts, Code Vein, the more action-oriented Final Fantasy games, or just like anime games, then you should give this game a chance. Overall, I'd say that Scarlet Nexus is worth $60 to $69.99 as far as investment is concerned. I enjoyed playing it a lot, and I hope you will too. Let me know your opinions in the comments, and if you have any games you would like me to review. Thanks, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.